Fallout continues after Russia launched an attack on Ukraine last night. Explosions could be heard all over the country last night. The Ukrainian president says dozens of soldiers and civilians have been killed. Hundreds more were injured. President Joe Biden and leaders from around the world vowed to make sure Russia pays for what they called an unprovoked attack.
Explosions rocked cities throughout Ukraine, and Russian tanks could be seen crossing the border as Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine has begun.
The attack is ongoing in many areas, and we need all the support, all the additional support we can get from our friends and allies.
President Biden said Russia alone is responsible for the death and destruction this attack will bring.
Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war, and now he and his country will bear the consequences.
The president has warned of unprecedented sanctions against Russia in response.
In today's actions, we've now sanctioned Russian banks that together hold around $1 trillion in assets.
President Biden has said U.S. forces will not fight in Ukraine, but thousands of U.S. troops are positioned in nearby NATO member countries.
NATO is now going to have functionally a border right up against a hostile Russia-controlled Ukraine.
Thursday morning, cars lined up at the border checkpoint into Poland as people try to flee Ukraine any way they can.
What are your immediate plans?
None. Get to the U.S. assistance center down the line and then ask them where to go and what to do, what they think is best.
U.S. forces in Poland have already set up camps to begin receiving refugees. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
President Biden joined other world leaders to condemn Russian President Vladimir Putin for the attack. He says the U.S. has done everything it can to de-escalate the conflict and cut through Russian misinformation.
We've been transparent with the world. We've shared declassified evidence about Russia's plans and cyber attacks and false pretexts so that there could be no confusion or cover-up about what Putin was doing.
President Biden says the U.S. sent more troops to Poland and Germany. Thousands, including some from Fort Bragg, deployed in recent weeks.
Our forces are not and will not be engaged in the conflict with Russia in Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight in Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies and reassure those allies in the East. As I made crystal clear, the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory with the full force of American power.
Leaders from around North Carolina weighed in on the crisis overseas as well. North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis released a statement last night that reads in part, quote, "America must stand in solidarity with Ukraine by providing financial support and military equipment. The Biden administration needs to quickly and significantly ramp up sanctions on Russia, and they need to hurt." Representative Kathy Manning tweeted her support for Ukraine, saying the U.S. and our allies must be determined to punish this immensely destructive attack on Ukraine, democracy, and global peace and security. Representative Virginia Foxx said tyranny must always be met with unyielding justice. She continued, "The weight of this invasion and unprecedented defiance of standing international agreements falls upon the shoulders of every free nation." And Representative Alma Adams said she continues to pray for peace and for the people and children of Ukraine and for the Russian people who stand against Putin. People from all over the world continue to react to Russia's invasion in Ukraine. Pro-Ukraine protests have broken out globally, even in Moscow.
From Tokyo to Beirut,
Russia, go home!
To London.
I want all people around the world to stop Putin.
There's strong support for Ukraine.
This is so horrifying and shocking and appalling.
Even among Russians like Tatiana Ruzak, who lives in the UK with her 3 children.
There's a slight hint of shame in all of this because this is my country who is starting the aggressive invading war.
You feel guilty?
Of course I feel guilty. Everyone, I think, feels the same.
Le président Poutine n'a pas seulement attaqué l'Ukraine.
One world leader after another is denouncing Russia's invasion.
This hideous and barbaric venture of Vladimir Putin must end in failure.
European leaders are promising to hammer Putin with tough sanctions.
It is President Putin who is bringing war back to Europe.
For Ukrainian Katerina Volovic, the war is personal. Her family is in the line of fire.
Of course, it's horrible. I'm stressed. I'm nervous about my parents, and I'm really afraid that a lot of people die.
Others are in disbelief.
It's shocking. It's just sorry.
I see that you're tearing up. It's quite emotional.
Yeah.
Impose sanctions now!
Protesters know these signs won't stop the war, but they hope someone listening will. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
Russia's attack on Ukraine drove down stock prices around the world. U.S. stocks saw a sharp drop-off today. Almost every single Dow component was in the red, and the Nasdaq began in bear market territory. Global financial markets reeled in response to the Russia-Ukrainian crisis. Crude oil surged above $100 a barrel for the first time since 2014. Dr. Thomas Porter from NCANT says the energy market will see some of the most drastic impacts.
The immediate impact, of course, will be gas prices. I'm very impressed that Germany stepped up immediately and ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline project, which Russia desperately needs because Russia is basically a gas station with nuclear weapons.
Dr. Porter says Russia's economy relies on selling oil. The sanctions prevent them from doing so. Meantime, Gas Buddy says prices jumped about 10 cents in most places around the U.S. A spokesperson said Americans should expect to see high gas prices for a while.
It's not yet known when we will see an organized drop at the pump. If the situation improves in Russia dramatically, we could see prices go down relatively quickly. If something were to happen, say overnight, oil prices could plummet on any development, any positive development in the situation. Beyond that, I don't see a normal decline in gas prices until later this summer or fall.
DeHaan also says gas prices will rise nationwide about 5 to 15 cents. He says the national average could reach $4 if the crisis in Russia escalates. This situation continues to develop, and we'll keep you updated as we continue to learn more.